What's up, team? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Asia session. Alright, so like I said in Discord, I have not done anything to my chart since previous New York session. I normally do this in the break time between sessions, but I figured this would be a good chance for you guys to see how I do it, if you care. Alright, so going to like the higher time frame, I have NQ on the left. I'm going to basically delete all of yesterday's levels. So like value area low, don't need that anymore, Asia low, all that. So I'm going to delete all this. As far as my supply and demand levels, if they're still valid, I keep them. So like this area right here was a supply zone that I had marked off from, I don't know, a couple days ago. And we obviously rejected that. We went a little bit above it, but we rejected that. So it's, in my mind, still a level that could be resistant. So I will keep that. But if we ever have a supply or demand level that's like we broke straight through it and now, you know, we're like trading way above or whatever, then I'll just delete it. All right, and then I start marking levels. So this is our previous day high. Is it? Hold on. Yep. Previous day high, previous day low. You guys are getting an echo? Is anyone else hearing it? Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Because I am not the tech person and I would be like, I have no idea. I don't know. None of my settings changed. Alright, so I marked off previous day high and low. Next thing, I'll turn off this VWAP just so there's fewer lines. Next thing I do is I have this little favorites toolbar down here. I use the fixed range volume profile tool from TradingView to get my session volume profile from 9:30 to the end of the session. And then grab my horizontal tool, mark off the value areas. And then I delete that just so there's less stuff on my chart. And then from there, the next thing I do is I start at the 30-minute time frame. So like I said, I leave all of my old supply and demand levels on that I have marked off from like the weekend or previous days. And I'm looking for any new ones that might have formed in the last session. So just kind of a Cliff Notes version of how I do it. I do have videos where I talk more in depth about it. But what I'm doing is looking for an engulfing candle in either direction. Like an engulfing candle, an aggressive move candle, whatever you want to call it, on the higher time frame. So I don't do it on like the 5-minute or a lower time frame, but 30 minutes and up. So this candle right here kind of catches my eye. That's an aggressive move down. And if you look left, ideally I'm looking for a candle that's the opposite color. So if it's a short, I'm looking for a green candle. If it's a long, I'm looking for a red candle or white on my chart. But the opposite color. And then I mark off a zone where that is. So this right here would be another zone that I'm watching. And I make it red because that would be an area that I'd be watching for shorts if it comes up there. I also look at the 45-minute and the 1 hour just to see if that zone maybe looks a little bit different. Like for example, if I found that zone on the 1 hour and it's huge, then I might want to like narrow it down a little bit. So I'll go into a smaller time frame. And then I'll give you guys a cheat code that I use. I'm putting a disclaimer on this because I don't like to be reliant on indicators, but there is one indicator that someone in our chat actually turned me on to. I didn't know about it until a couple weeks ago. It's the Edgeful supply and demand indicator, and it's a free indicator. But I will check my zones. So I like to find them first, and then I use the indicator and I turn it on and see if there's any that I missed. Or like you can see this one that I just marked off. I marked that one off, and then I turn the indicator on and it's the same level. So it kind of just gives me confirmation that like, oh, okay, I found a good level. So Edgeful supply and demand, check that indicator out if you have not already. All right, so let me turn that off. And that is basically what I do to get my chart ready. And then I kind of just look for, you know, possible scenarios. Like if it comes down to previous day low and aggressively gets bought back up, we could look for longs. If it comes up to this supply zone, we could potentially look for a rejection and go short. So in my mind, I'm just looking for like a level below and a level above that makes sense for possible scenarios. And then I go to ES and gold and do the exact same thing. So here's ES. You assume I don't mark the orb or initial balance for Asia? Not exactly. So I definitely don't do the 15-minute opening range just because there's not enough volatility. Like for me, the orb, the 15-minute orb is more of an momentum trade idea in the New York session, and that doesn't really work with Asia most of the time. Sometimes it moves well, but most of the time it doesn't. I do mark off the first hour though, and I do trade a sweep. Like if the 8 p.m. Tokyo Open sweeps the high or the low, that's a good trade setup. So I'll talk to you guys about that. All right, so previous day low. Go into the session volume profile. And then 30-minute time frame and up and see if there's any new supplier demand zones. Not really seeing anything that's catching my eye on ES. I'll double check with the indicator, see if I'm missing anything. I figured it would mark this one off. The reason I didn't is there's not like an aggressive move off of it. Also, another reason is it's all-time high. So I don't love the idea of shorting all-time high. Yeah, that's the main thing. I guess there's a little one here because that was a pretty aggressive sell-off on that 30-minute candle, and there was chop and consolidation to the left from there. But this whole area is kind of choppy, so. But we're sitting in it right now. That's something to potentially be aware of. If the Tokyo Open starts off bearish, this could be a zone that we're rejecting from. All right, let's go into gold. Mark off the daily levels first. Holy cow, look at that daily candle, you guys. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys something on gold that I do differently with the volume profile. In NQ and ES, the session volume profile, the value areas that I mark off are just for the New York session because that's where most of the volume is. With gold, I actually do the entire previous day, not just the New York session, because Asia actually has a lot of volume and I want to get that in. If you look at the volume bars down on the bottom of the screen, Asia is almost the same as New York. So I like to get all of it in, and that's where I've found success, is including all of it. So I start at 6 p.m. and go all the way across to the end of the day. So value areas are a little bit different on gold. Why do I trade NQ and gold? Are they connected? Good question. No, they're not. Like, they're not correlated or anything. ES and NQ are correlated, so I watch both of them. And then gold, I just started trading during Asia because it moves really well during Asia. That is the reason for it. Good morning from Tokyo. Yeah. This is your session right here. All right, and then I'll go out to the higher time frame on gold, see if there's any supplier demand levels that I want to pay attention to. I'm actually gonna I'm gonna go out to the hourly. So this area right here, because we kind of had that little flag and then acceleration out of it. So this is a decent consolidation zone maybe. So there's actually lots of possible bounce spots if we ever do get a pullback on gold. Let me see what the indicator shows, if there's anything big I missed. Yeah, maybe that one. It just went straight up all yesterday. So if it ever does decide to pull back, we got lots of options for bounces. All right, so I know this isn't super entertaining, you guys, but hopefully this is helpful for anyone who's like wondering how I mark my levels. That was kind of the goal with doing it with you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. The indicators that I mentioned for the supply and demand that I was just drawing, it's the edge full supply and demand indicator. This one right here, edge full supply and demand zones. And it's a free version. A lot of the edge full indicators that I use are, you have to have the paid subscription, but that one's free. Am I in the same time zone as New York? I am personally Central time zone. So if you're looking at my chart, like where my where I was drawing the volume profile and all that, my New York session is 8:30 a.m. Alrighty, so someone was asking me about, do I do the initial balance during Asia? Not exactly. But a lot of times, the Tokyo Open, which is in about 25 minutes, it'll sweep either the high or low of the current session. So what I'll do, it's not exactly the initial balance because we're like an hour and a half in, not 60 minutes in, but this is our low of tonight's session. And this is the high of tonight's session. So the Tokyo Open is where the volume comes in, and if it sweeps either of those levels, we can look for a liquidity sweep. And there's also some extra confluence too, like this is the low of tonight, and we also have previous day low right below it. So if it kind of comes below and grabs both, that could be a decent long opportunity. Couple scenarios there. Just look at gold. Yeah, I don't want to look at gold because I'm not in a long and I am sad about it. It's just going to the moon. Jeez. This is a pretty big higher time frame resistance that I have though, so we'll see what happens here. I think it's ultimately going higher, but this might be a spot that we get maybe a pullback, maybe. So I'll draw those same like session highs and lows on gold and ES too. Doesn't really apply on gold because not that it is impossible. I doubt it will drop all the way down here. That would be a crazy drop. And then the high keeps going up, so that doesn't really apply. And then I don't trade ES during Asia ever because the volume is so low. It's terrible. So now in my Asia trading strategy, the best time is to wait for the 8 p.m. Tokyo Open. See if it hits any of our levels. Which path would you advise after passing Tradeify Select? Daily or flex? Ooh. That is a good question. And I'm going to give you the annoying answer of it depends. Like, you have to figure out what makes more sense for you. I like... They both are good. I'll kind of give you the pros and cons. Like, the flex is good because there's a higher max payout. So if you are okay with like taking base hits and waiting, 10 trading days, like maybe a couple weeks to get a payout, and you want to like max out your payout, if you're in the 50K account, you can get a 3K payout. I would say go with the flex. If you are maybe a newer trader perhaps, and you want to like get your first payout, or like you want a payout faster, like if your trading style is more, I don't want to say aggressive because that can come across as like degen style trading, but if you can potentially trade to, a $3,000 day in one day and get a payout tomorrow, go with the select or the daily. Daily payouts are nice. Like, they're good for building confidence. Giving yourself a paycheck every day is really nice. And it's a good confidence builder if you haven't gotten very many payouts. Because, withdrawing a little bit of money out of the market every day is a good way to increase your confidence in trading. So it kind of depends on where you're at, I think. Hopefully that helps you figure out the path that you should go with. I don't compare the other metals to gold. No. Yes, tech, I normally do mark the highs and lows of the session. The reason I was saying on gold it doesn't really make sense today is just because the high is like it's continuing to make new highs. So the idea of a liquidity sweep when it just made a high 2 minutes ago doesn't really apply. And then the low is like, that's an insane drop. So that's where I said it's not impossible, it just doesn't seem super likely to drop all the way down there and then bounce. So the high and low of the current session on gold just, it doesn't make sense, I guess. For something like NQ, it does make sense because we're kind of just ranging in the middle. So when the session opens, it would be easy to like sweep one of the levels and bounce really quick. You missed the stream this morning. This morning's price action sucked. I actually was proud of how I traded this morning. I took one trade. It was a small loss. And then I didn't trade at all after that. The first loss was in like 9 minutes into the open. I didn't trade again. I didn't trade after that the rest of the day because I didn't see anything that was really good. Like, it was super choppy. I just didn't feel good about any trades. So not a green session, but was proud of how I traded. Does each of the payouts have a profit target? Yes. So if you do the daily accounts, tell me, Andy, do you have a 50K or which size are you doing? So assuming that you're doing the 50K, for the daily accounts, you have to trade, 25K. I don't know the 25K numbers off the top of my head. So you'll have to look those up. But in the daily account, there's a buffer that you have to trade above, and you can withdraw anything above the buffer. And then with the flex, you have to trade a minimum of 5 green days. I know with the 50K account, it's a $150 day that counts as a green day. I don't know what it is for 25K. So I don't ever trade the 25K, so I don't have those numbers memorized. So check their, in the help section, if you check out their FAQs, it'll have that all listed there. Or honestly, with Google nowadays, you could just Google it, like, how much do I need to make in my 25K Tradeify Select account? With all the AI stuff, it'll like give you the exact answer. All right, we're starting to make our way down towards this session low. Tokyo opens in like 15 minutes. Oh, Brian, that is stressful. Oh my goodness. I'm glad it worked out for you. You're probably having a little bit of a panic attack, I would imagine. So like I said a couple minutes ago, we are coming up into a higher time frame resistance level that I have on gold. We are starting to reject a little bit. So that idea of a sweep of the session high or low, if the Tokyo Open does come up and sweep that level, we could potentially look for a short. Anyone in the chat taking any trades so far tonight? Anyone catch a long on gold? It was hard to catch. It kind of just went. Like, it opened up for the first hour just flat. Like, nothing. Looked like it was going nowhere. And then all of a sudden, like, boom. Out of nowhere. That's the tricky part about trading gold during Asia, honestly, is sometimes the volume comes at 7 p.m. Sometimes it comes at 8 p.m. at the Tokyo Open. And sometimes the Tokyo Open is nothing, and it waits until the Shanghai Open or whatever the 9 p.m. Open is. So there's like 3 different times. So sometimes, like, I don't sit at my computer most of the time during Asia, just because I have other stuff going on. But I'll, like, log in and check real quick at each of those, the top of every hour at 7, 8, and 9, and see if there's any excitement. I don't set up an anchored VWAP unless there's an obvious volume candle. But no, there's not enough volume during Asia for that to matter from what I've seen. It's usually only busy for the first few minutes, maybe 15, 30 minutes, depending on the day. And then it'll like quickly just flatten out and it won't really become much. It doesn't matter much anymore. Oh, are you talking about like this? Yes, the daily VWAP. So this is anchored at the 6 p.m. Open. But I don't anchor another one at the Tokyo Open. I thought that's what you were asking. Yeah, this one re-anchors at the daily open. That's why there's this funky massive blue line, because it closed the previous session up here and then re-anchored down here at the open. Nine minutes until the Tokyo Open, and we are hovering right at the low of this current session. But we also have previous day low right below it. So possible sweep and bounce opportunity. We'll see how the market opens. See how Tokyo Open goes. Yes, tech, that's correct. Weekly, daily, and New York anchored VWAP. So if you guys have watched my Asia gold session strategy video, one thing that I do, this setup does not present all the time, but I'll draw a fib on the trend, and if VWAP lines up with the 0.5 and the 618, I'll take a trend continuation trade. So somewhere in this box, if VWAP is like in that box, there's the confluence. Like both of those things need to line up, and right now it is. So that's another possibility. If it comes down to this level, like 43.23-ish, we can watch for a possible bounce. Do I only trade on the 5-minute during Asia? Not necessarily. So I think the same thing applies as what I do with New York. I'll stay on the 5-minute just to like help with patience and stuff and not get caught up on every 1-minute candle. And then if it's approaching a level and I'm looking for a liquidity sweep, then I'll zoom into the 1-minute. But with Asia, since it's so much slower, the 1-minute chart is so tiny. I don't know. I feel like during the New York session, when there's a lot of volatility and the ATR is high, 5-minute candles can be massive. Like there's days that a 5-minute candle is 100 points or more. So I feel like I miss the move if I wait for a 5-minute candle to close, you know? But during Asia, you can be much more patient because a 5-minute candle is not going to go very far a lot of times. I mean, once Tokyo opens, it'll move more. But, like, even this candle right here, which is a pretty big one, it's 44 points. That gray one right there. And that's nothing for the New York session. I do market orders. Kind of just hovering, not doing anything right now. See what happens in 4 minutes. I do not use ATR to set my stop locks. I use ATR more as just an awareness tool. Because sometimes you're looking at the chart and you see this range and it's hard to like, sometimes it's hard to see that the candles are massive. But if you know that the ATR is really high, it's just a kind of a red flag to like, ooh, I need to size down today. But no, I don't set my stop loss. Like if the ATR is 30, then I have a 30-point stop loss. I don't do that. I set my stop on an structure based on price action. So if you're constantly getting stopped out, like your stops are too tight, The biggest thing I can say is size down and give yourself a wider stop loss. Like if you find that like your idea was usually right, you're getting stopped out and then it's continuing to your target, definitely size down and increase your stop loss. Wider stop. Patrick, I'm not sure what you're asking. How well would you say that gold behaves technically? Is it reliable? I mean, depends on your strategy. You have to get used to it. But I think it's just like any other chart. There's days where it's super clean and it respects my levels and it bounces where I think it should bounce. You know, I quote unquote should. And then there's days where it's choppy and I have no idea what it's doing. So that's the same with any chart though, right? All right. Tokyo's open. Let's see if it sweeps that level that I'm talking about. Remember, we do have previous day low right below it. So stay patient because it could come lower if we are going to get a bounce here. Gold's coming down to VWAP and that fib that I have drawn up. I know, Waffles, you didn't send me an autographed photo, so I couldn't put it up there. I was waiting for it. Well, gold might be bouncing earlier than I was watching for. Might be being a little bit too greedy with my bounce target. See if it comes a little bit lower. Like, somewhere down here, that would be super good risk to reward. But if I wait too much, then I'm chancing it going without me. Man, I was watching for a possible liquidity sweep at this level, and it's bouncing, but sheesh, there is no momentum off of that level. So this is part of I've told you guys I don't stream Asia a lot just because of like kids' sports schedules and stuff, but also the fact that sometimes Asia just sucks. Like sometimes I look at the chart for 15 minutes and I'm just like, nope. There ain't nothing. Most of the time. Actually, the last like 2 weeks, Asia has been good. Like that's where my last couple payouts have come from. Like looking at my journals, I've been winning during Asia and losing during New York. Not all of them, but like my win rate during the New York session has been lower than Asia lately. It's not always that way though. Sometimes Asia sucks, so I don't know. Come on, gold. You gonna come a little bit lower? No, I'm not. I'm not fading your options trade, Waffles. I just want it like 7 points lower. Just for a little better risk to reward. I don't know. It's looking pretty sleepy though. It might just not go anywhere. Ay, ay, ay. That's annoying. Now it's going. You're long NQ. Yeah. That was a tricky one. Honestly. Like I was saying, it swept that level, but there was never that like aggressive engulfing candle that convinced me. And then there were lots of wicks and it was choppy. Like that was an ugly liquidity sweep. Dang, gold. There was a part of me that felt FOMO on this trade, but now it's just rejecting. So I'm glad I'm not in it because I'd be stressing right now. Did I select my colors for psychological reasons? No, I wish I could say I did, but no, I like teal. I have heard somewhere, it was random, like I don't remember data or anything on it, but apparently red candles like cause anxiety or stress or whatever. So I took that off, but it wasn't because I wanted to remove the stress from my chart. I just like the colors. Honestly, I was bored one day. I think I was like trying to distract myself from taking a trade on a choppy day. So I was like, let's play around with my chart colors. That would be fun. Yeah, Sean, that was my thought exactly when I read that. I don't remember where I read it or heard it or something, but when they said that red candles are stressful, I was like, not if you're in a short. Well, good, Patrick. I'm glad you feel that way. Maybe gold is gonna come down to the level I wanted. All right. Have a good night. Yeah, Sean, that's kind of what I'm hoping for too. Because it didn't, like, it had a little bounce off of that session, the previous session low, but it wasn't aggressive. There wasn't any, like, continuation off of it. So if it comes down to this level, that might be the acceleration that we get. Is that a 1 hour FEG? Where? Are you talking about this green box that I have drawn up? Or what do you mean? Nope. I have that drawn up from the fib. So I drew a fib from the low to the high of the session, and that is the 0.5 to the 618. Dang it. My position tool didn't show. But I am in a long two. Let me turn that on. Maybe I don't have them linked. All right, so when it bounced at that 0.5 and VWAP, that's where I got in. Goal is to get back up to, so the way I trade these is target 1 is back up to the recent high, and then target 2 would be either the 0.2 or I trail my stop loss. You just made $146 in gold. Let's go. Effigy? Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to Google that. I don't know what an effigy is. I don't love this choppiness. All the excitement in gold happened an hour ago. Sean, I hope that's a copy and pasted answer from Google. Or do you just sound like a walking dictionary? Were those words out of your mouth, or did you copy it from Google? Okay, good. I was going to say, oh my goodness, you sound really smart. Your time frame choices are in a drop down menu. How do you change it to be like mine? I don't know. So I have mine in a drop down menu right here, but I have enough room where several fit. What you could probably do you have them favorited? So put your favorites next to the ones that you want to be up on the screen. Like if I put a star next to the 2 minute, that's going to pop up too. And the 3 minute, that's going to pop up too. I can just add all of them. Well, NQ got a little bounce at that level, came back down, just kind of consolidating here. I don't love this long. I mean, it looks like it might bounce from there, but now the Tokyo low is here at 29,546. And then we have previous low down here. So to me, this is kind of a random spot to bounce. Zooming out to the 5 minute though, it looks like that's what's gonna happen. All right, there's TP1, so I'll move my stop loss up and then see if we get some continuation. Sometimes it rejects, comes right back down. Sometimes it continues to like the 0.2 or some other key level. The problem is we're already so high on gold that you have to zoom out to like the hourly to get any other nearby levels. Show the fib settings. So I'll pull it up and you guys can take a screenshot or rewind it or whatever. But I only mark off the high and low, so the 0 and the 1, and then the 618, the 0.5, and then I do have the 707. I use that a lot of times as a stop loss because I'm looking for it to return to the 0.5 to the 618, the golden pocket, or whatever you want to call it. But a lot of times it'll like wick below the 618 or something, so I don't want to put my stop loss right at the 618. So I use the 707 as a stop loss. Loosely. I also use price action as my stop loss. Um, how many years have I been trading? It'll be 2 years in September. September of 2024 is when I started. So a little less than 2 years. You're welcome. Rational common sense. I am in the trade. You should be able to see my position tool over here. Yep. I started with 6 contracts. I took off 3 at that recent swing high. And then gonna hold the runner to hopefully the 0.5 extension. How did I get into trading? So there's a guy that I know through the gym space. I was a gym owner and I was in a like a coaching group, and he was actually the guy who helped with my Facebook ads. He was the marketing guy. So he was just like a Facebook acquaintance. And he was posting stuff about trading on his feed. And it's always just been interesting to me. Like, even in high school, I was like, I want to learn how to trade stocks, but I never got into it. It just seemed confusing or overwhelming or whatever. But I started to become more curious about it when I saw him posting about it. And, you know, the initial draw to it was the money. Like, I made $200 in 30 minutes. But what kept me was I love the charts. Like, my brain loves math. I love patterns. I don't know. I just love it. I've always been that way. Math was my favorite subject in school. I love like, I took art classes. I remember taking art classes in high school, and I liked to do like the Picasso style art where you like draw lines and like make the stained glass with the patterns and that kind of stuff. Like, that's just the way my brain works. I love numbers. I love patterns. So I think I just naturally loved the charts, and that's what kept me intrigued and wanting to learn everything about it. And then of course the time freedom aspect of it, like, once you figure it out, and I don't want to say figure it out because obviously I'm a learner, like, I'm always still learning. I still have weaknesses and things that I need to improve on for sure. I'm not at all saying that I've made it, but like, once you get to a point where you're taking payouts consistently and like you're a profitable trader, the lifestyle is unmatched. Like, and I don't mean like Lamborghini exotic vacation lifestyle, but more like, I can work 2 hours a day and make more money than I did running my business where I worked 80 hours a week. So that's pretty cool. Have I tried using different session VWAPs? Yes. I actually have an edgeful indicator with the market sessions that marks off the session VWAP. Like, this is the Tokyo VWAP right here. Trail my stop a little tighter. It looks like it's rejecting here. Like I said, this gray box is actually a higher time frame resistance that I have marked off from like the hourly. So this might be a spot where we pull back. I'm not going to short from here though, because obviously we're very bullish, but could be getting a little pullback. Yeah, sold the gym a little over a year and a half ago. What got me into streaming on YouTube? Good question. So honestly, it was uh just someone challenged me to it. They're like, "Hey, it would be good for accountability." Like it's another trader who um streams himself. So in the beginning, it was kind of just an opportunity for me to like be accountable because if people are watching me, then hopefully I wouldn't take stupid degen trades, and just kind of be transparent with the journey and like show my blown account, show my losses, and just show like what real trading looks like when you're a learning trader. And then it's kind of evolved into like now I'm actually making money with this thing and people are learning from me and I'm helping other people, and so it's evolved. But that's how it started. Do I have a favorite YouTube mentor? No, not really. Still watching for this NQ to maybe come down to previous day low, or at the very least sweep this Tokyo low at like 546 maybe. Would I long if it bounces from VWAP? Like if it reclaims VWAP and then bounces from there? Probably not. Like from this Tokyo VWAP? Probably not, because then it would be coming up into the session high. Oh, in gold. Um, maybe. It doesn't look like it's coming down there though. We do have another influx of volume coming in 30 minutes with the Shanghai Open. Dang, gold. Miguel, during Asia, I trade mostly liquidity sweeps and supply and demand levels. And then I do have a strategy here on gold, which was the reason I took this one. If VWAP and the 0.5 and the 618 line up, I'll take a trend continuation trade. During the New York session, it's a little bit different. Yeah, the gold trade, I took partial profits at that recent swing high, and then the rest of it hit my trailing stop loss. Bummer, huh? I don't swing trade futures, but I have swing traded like Bitcoin and other crypto before. Trailed my stop loss too tight on gold. Bummer. I don't meditate every day. No, I don't meditate in general. I do work out a lot. It's not every day. It's about 5 days a week. I don't know if I like that word, but you're asking is CrossFit for beginners? Uh, it can be if you do go to the right gym. I used to own a CrossFit gym, and yes, most of our clientele were like 40 to 50-year-old overweight people. They weren't like crazy athletic, like former college athletes or anything like that. They were just regular people that wanted to do cool stuff. I did not have a mentor, so the way I learned to trade was just watching a bunch of YouTube videos and figuring it out, honestly. I did work with someone for about 12 weeks. We had 12 sessions together, and it was working more on like the psychology and some of the habits, like strategies to put in place for over trading and stuff like that. But not, I didn't like learn a strategy from a course or anything like that. I kind of just watched thousands of videos and put together a bunch of things that made sense to me. Super bad guy. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have my moments. There's also times where I screw things up. Man, Tokyo is being, or NQ is being a little bit tough. There have been like a couple of like almost good setups. I know some of you guys in the chat are making money off of it. I'm not. But like this first one, that liquidity sweep, I know some of you guys took along there. I talked about it. I didn't trade it though because it didn't give me the confirmation I would have loved to see. And then this one right here, it came down to almost the current session low and then bounced and hovered there. So it kind of looked weak and then all of a sudden just exploded up. So I was waiting for it to either retest the Tokyo low, like fully retest and wick it, or come down to previous day low. But it was sneaky and it bounced without any of that. That's one thing about Asia, you guys, is it's like if you're used to New York and the way NQ like wicks at key levels and stuff, Asia doesn't always do that. It doesn't play by the like quote unquote rules. I don't like saying that trading has rules because obviously you have to kind of go with the flow. But it's different. You just have to get used to it. It is bouncing at the Asia low right now, or the Tokyo VWAP. Nope, not anymore. Maybe it'll come down to previous day low. Let's see. Or, like I said, at least wick that Tokyo low. And then again, we have the Shanghai Open for gold coming in about 16 minutes. So that could give us some excitement. Your wife is sabotaging you, Patrick. That's hilarious. I don't like this price action, you guys. We're staying in this little box. And it's not even like a clean, rangy box. Oh my goodness, gold. I can't even look. Hurting my feelings. NQ's kind of getting to the point for me where if it doesn't do something soon, it might not be worth it to watch anymore. But we do have that 9 p.m. Shanghai Open shortly in gold. Maybe we get a little pullback and then we can find an entry there. Maybe, maybe. Anyone in the chat in a trade right now? I know Jason said that you're in a long on NQ, but not loving it right now. because it's not going anywhere. Look at that 5 minute, just wicks all over the place. Uh-oh. Tech is short NQ. Jason's long NQ. Top man, you're longing what? What are you in a long on? Yeah, I agree. That's kind of why I've been waiting. At the very least, would like to see it sweep the Tokyo session low. But with previous day low right there, kind of makes me wonder if it's going to take both. So it did sweep the previous Tokyo low. It did have good volume at that level. It's playing around with it. Taking your ball and going home. But we're so close to maybe sweeping right here. What session do I like to trade the best? I don't know. Depends on the price action. Low volume session, man. It might not give us like a clean sweep. Oh my gosh, insanely different. Yeah, if this is the first time you've watched Asia, it's a whole different ball game. Sometimes it trends really nicely. Sometimes it's like this. So at this point, what I do is I wait for the 9 p.m. Shanghai movement on gold to see if anything else presents. And if not, that's about the time that I sign off. Because NQ just continues to get choppier. It doesn't really get better. Oh, 2 a.m. Yeah, go to bed. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. No, I don't get worried about my order not being filled because I trade with prop firms. So that doesn't really apply. And then max number of contracts, I trade $200 per trade. So the contracts vary depending on how big I want my stop loss to be. Yeah, there's the touch of the previous day low level, but no signs of bouncing at this point. Well, there goes that trade idea. Dang. Just going straight down. We didn't really get any additional movement on gold. Dang, NQ. Is that $200 a set it and forget it kind of thing? I use the risk to reward tool. So like here, if you mark off where you want your stop loss to go, and then in here in the risk, you can put the dollar amount that you want to risk. That's the only setting I change on all of that is just the dollar risk. And then it'll tell you based on your stop loss how many contracts to take. So if I wanted my stop loss there, I would take 3 contracts. But you can see if I move my stop loss to be tighter or bigger or whatever, like if my stop loss was there, it would be 4 contracts. You just look at the quantity. But that's how I figure out my number of contracts that I take. Edge full initial balance for Asia and London. Yes, the reports are very valid. To be honest with you, I don't use them that much. Mostly because I'm not at my computer a lot of times when I'm trading Asia. I use the 15-minute opening range trades during the New York session. I don't during Asia, but it probably works. I can't say I've done it, so I don't have like data and backtesting knowledge and all that. All right, gold's getting a little bit of a pullback. Let's see if it does come down to VWAP or any of these levels. Maybe get a continuation back up. So our initial balance on gold, I go from like the 8 p.m. to the 9 p.m. That's kind of what we're looking at. NQ's bouncing. Well, gold didn't really give us anything different at the Shanghai Open. I was kind of hoping that it would maybe come down to VWAP and like, have an influx of volume and get some momentum. Oh man, it's Cairo. Please don't trade the opening range that way. I actually have several videos on how I trade it. I'm not saying that my way is the best way, but whatever you do, don't just by the breakout. You're going to get faked out so bad. You're just going to end up being someone else's liquidity. I do. I wait for a retest of, usually, of the New York anchored VWAP. So I don't even wait for just a retest of, like, if it breaks out of the high, I don't take a retest of the high, because a lot of times it pulls back inside of the range to maybe even like the midpoint of the range, or to a fair value gap, or to VWAP, or whatever. Like, everyone has their own different way of trading it. But pretty much everyone I've seen trades some sort of a retest and then continuation. Because, like you said, when you were backtesting it, it's Cairo. It will break through and then pull back big time. So you want to get a better risk to reward. When do I enter orb trade? Like I said, when it retests the New York anchored VWAP, I trade it during the New York session. How do you anchor VWAP to New York? So go to your anchored VWAP tools in TradingView and just hover over the 9:30 a.m. candle and click right there. That'll anchor it at the New York Open. I don't know why this disconnected. There we go. We are coming down to VWAP. How often do I do the Asia streams? Not very often. I think I've done it like 4 times, maybe. So I drew that fib on the initial balance. Like if you draw the Tokyo initial balance, it is bouncing at the 618. Didn't quite, I mean, it bouncing at like the midpoint. That's the more important level I'm watching. Didn't quite come down to VWAP. I do use the same markings in the New York session. So if you weren't here when I first signed on J Trades, I marked my whole chart with everyone. So you can rewind and watch the beginning of it. But for my value areas, I use the previous session, New York session. All right, I'm going to grab along here. And then I leave those value areas on for tomorrow's session. I don't use them as much. They come into play a lot during Asia. What the heck? Why did you guys not tell me that I was in 15? It didn't do my copy. That was terrible. Rookie mistake there. Fixed that one. Meant to do 3 across my accounts. So J Trades, to answer your question, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. When's the next Asia session? Honestly, I probably won't do one for a while. This is not a regular time that works for me. Man, slow. I closed it out, you guys. It's not going anywhere. It's Cairo Films. Honestly, use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know when I started trading, and I would just ask questions like, what does CPI mean and why is it important? What is FOMC and why is it important? Why does it matter with NQ? How does it affect NQ? Like, all of those things I didn't know, and I would just have conversations with AI about it. So do that. Yeah, everything's dumping now. Even gold finally getting that pullback. All right, gang. I think I'm going to call it there. None of the trade ideas that I have left are playing out. Gold's or NQ's just dropping. Don't have any like sweep levels nearby. Gold might bounce here, but the volume is just, it's slow. Like there's not momentum, and I don't trade well when it's just like a slow creep kind of day. I have learned my lesson that way. In the morning, what do I read to gauge the market? I really just look at Financial Juice and see if there's any data coming out. So financialjuice.com. I have this filtered to red folder news, and I see if there's anything that I need to be aware of. And then I watch this for any like red headlines that come out. Like right now, Fed Daily or Dally is talking. Or if there's some sort of like war announcement or Trump has a headline or something like this. I pay attention to that kind of stuff. But that's really where I get most of my like quote unquote news. That's about it. All right, gang. I'm going to hop off. If you are wanting to watch me trade live tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow during the New York session. Have a good one, gang. Take care.